Greetings, I am Lies.
And I am Scandal.
And
Let's play a game together.
Okay, if you haven't heard this song on TikTok or wherever else it might be, like, we keep running into this really fancy version of it, and we already mentioned it in a different video, but it's just, and then the really dumb version of it, and it just, the song,
dumbed down version.
the fancy version will not stop. You're just swiping through, and there's like part of TikTok that is like your interests based on the content of the video. So my TikTok scroll is full of like ASL and disability positive and supportive adaptive stuff and Indigenous people and our own voices and Black Lives Matter and book clubs and D&D and
clothes
and a little
fashion.
bit of education and then a lot of like fashion from around the world. And unfortunately, every single video for fashion around the world, unless it is Indigenous persons, because they have more music and that's awesome, it is and you guys look great in your, kimonos and your hanfus and your beautiful garb from around the world, which I don't know all the names of because I can't remember the name of the cool-ass Korean dress at the moment. But, that one song, why?
Or the Vietnamese dress, which looked really pretty, by the way.
That was, yes, beautiful.
Was it Kipong or something like that? I don't remember.
Something like that. It was very pretty.
Yeah, it's very lovely.
Anyway, so that. All right. What should I do now? What should I do?
All right, so this question.
We've got this thing. If there's no involving her, we're not thinking about her at all. It's I will shake her hand, I will hug her like grandma, or I will stare into her eyes without blinking. I almost feel like if it wasn't a conscious choice, if it wasn't him choosing consciously, I would do stare into her eyes without blinking, because that'd be, for me, what isn't a power move. It's very much I'm indecisive, and so I just stare in terror.
Panic!
Like, that would be, if it was just basically a choice that showed up without him being self-aware of it, I would absolutely choose that one as panic. Like, if I were a different protagonist, because that would totally be, if it was just sprung on me, it'd be like, I stare in indecision. The panic looks like a challenge.
So, do you know what kills me about these silhouettes?
Oh, dear.
That it's finally occurred to me how much the anatomy is wildly different. And I know there was an argument from Nintendo when they came out with Super Mario Odyssey, and everybody freaked out about, the DK land. New Dog City. There we go. And everybody was like, what the crap? What is it?
People?
Like, realistic humans, and they went, there are lots of different diverse people all around the world anyway. And I went, there's a difference between a fucking cartoon, my dude, and a person who is within a certain range of heads high.
Okay, I will say that the shadow people in all of these seem like they're traced from a live model, and your regular people don't seem like that was the case at all.
So they stand out.
So they really do. They're very, very different. Okay, so I think it's going to be shake her hand, because I think from his wheelchair, he would awkwardly try and stand up and shake her hand and fail. Like, I'm meeting an important person, I must shake your hand.
Right.
It's also the first thing he thought of in the case of, like, Ken. So we have character precedent for it.
Yes.
Of going, do I shake his hand? That's another option. So I think, based on how awkward he is and how confused he seems here of what should I do, I think he would go for the handshake.
Honestly, though, the one thing that I still have to say that bugs me about this is, like, why did they call her? She's like grandma. Like, what?
Okay,
No.
Okay.
I know. There's the idea of going when you're so young, and I remember being in that position sometimes. We were just really like, wow, you seem so old. And you're just like, you're like a grandparent, and you're just kind of going like,
and later,
you look at yourself just be like, what the fuck was I on?
Later you see them and you're like, they were like 40? But but my parents were like 25 at the time, so and you're like 7.
Yeah, except for the fact that in this case we're talking about a 16-year-old going, you seem like grandma, and I'm like, fucking hell, man.
Maybe his parents started young.
Very, very young.
Okay, so there was at least one group of friends that I had where the average age of motherhood in their family was 16. And so, like, grandma and great-grandma and great-great-grandma, mom, they were all about 15, 16 years apart.
Whoa.
In their generations.
Whoa.
So that's what it was. And we had one point there was like, 7 generations in one room. And one of them was a brand new baby. but it was like, you guys are not as far apart in age as people may otherwise expect from your average mothering experience.
That also sounds like a very interesting process in regards to what happened. Education-wise, they didn't have it. That's what happened.
There was a level of very strong men validate the women, and there's very
and how they
little,
do it is...
and then what you do is, to some degree, you've done the family thing, or you've got your man, or whatever. There was this idea of like femininity in motherhood, as well as men defining your value as a woman, so that.
Right.
And then if your family doesn't provide it for you, because generally not as connected and stuff, because this wasn't a real healthy family that I knew, nonetheless. Because, low income, poor, there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of stress when you're poor, even if you're all well-meaning, okay?
Yeah.
And when you're all real stressed, you're sometimes just not good to each other, okay?
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to shake a hand.
Shake a hand.
Maybe
I think I have to be over on the name. There, okay.
Nope. I offer my, hey, we're not going to just, hello, grabs arm, puts hand in hand. Hi, nice to meet you. Reaches out in wheelchair, grabs her arm from her body, pulls it to his own hand, holds onto it. I offer. I love that. Would have been nice if that was in the options and understood that I was offering. So he just sitting there in his wheelchair, just suddenly like, hand up, hello.
Hello.
I offer my hand. It's very nice to meet you, Irma. Not Mrs. Irma anymore. It's just Irma. Or Ms.
Irma. Yep.
Ms. Irma.
Ms. Irma.
Ms. Irma.
Ms. Irma.
Ms. Irma wants me. Oh, she laughs, revealing wrinkles around her eyes.
All right, so I'm going
which
to
could
spoil
never,
something for you.
ever be illustrated in an anime style of this quality.
Okay, so part of me is going like, I feel like you're leaning into the no, she was so old kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And what's bugging me about that is going like, even children have wrinkle around the eye. It's actually a characteristic of real, what they talk about is, I think, is, as far as I understand for body language, it's what considered to be a real smile. Because it's a genuine smile where you get the wrinkles around on the sides of your eyes. It pinches out the crinklies. Like, yeah.
And some people have it more than others, I would say. But
yes.
there is always you don't seem like you're smiling as hard if there is no crinkling of the eyes at all. Now, not everyone gets it like moving out from the sides of the eyes or the giant classical crow's feet, whatever. But the fact that he needs to mention it is
especially
interesting. Going
in
like,
reference to the grandma comment.
Also specifically revealing wrinkles. Like they weren't there. They were hidden. The makeup is a lie and it's lying to you. And now they've been revealed. Like, that's the language I get. Not like her face looks older or middle age, and then, there's deeper crinkles when she smiles. They've been revealed.
Or, again, what we might have is somebody genuinely trying to go, I know a genuine smile when it's written down, so this is revealing the wrinkles, but it seems very out of place for this character, and also very out of place for this writing.
For him to comment on it, since everybody's been smiling this whole time and never mentioning it, I think it has more to do with her being old than her being genuinely happy that you exist.
Yeah.
But maybe not. Maybe they just have an inconsistent writing style.
We could be surprised. Don't take this the wrong way, but I don't shake hands. I feel that's too old-fashioned.
I'm a modern, progressive woman. Excuse you.
Honestly, that's kind of the vibe that I was getting, and
I work 2 jobs and I raise a sick daughter. I don't need no man and I am progressive as fuck. Whoa. Oh, nice to meet you too.
I'm a hugger instead.
Oh, nope, it's one of those. More boomer.
It's
boomer harder.
Oh, God.
Not less with your handshake. Boomer harder with a hug.
So what we're talking about is there is, weirdly enough, in particularly so I will say, white people do it a lot.
It's a white people
thing. It's such a white woman thing and the white guy thing, honestly, in my experience of just being like, I'm a hugger, honey, come and give me a hug. And you're like, you're a goddamn stranger.
I'm a hugger means you're now obligated to hug me, which is interestingly enough as well.
There was literally an experience where I think I've talked about it before, and I don't want to shame the person, but I'm sort of resentful of it because it was still frustrating where this one woman basically she basically was extolling off about, I had basically a panic attack, and I don't know what happened. So this is when coronavirus started, and she was so upset because she was like, we won't be able to hug each other anymore. You can't see each other's faces, and it was so sad, and we can't hug or touch babies anymore. And it was a very weird, entitled experience of this woman going off about going, I don't know what happened. I had had this mask on for like 30 minutes or whatever it was, and I just started panicking. Like, I'm totally paraphrasing here. It was, though, for definitely over 20 minutes. And it sounded like she went basically on a shopping trip, and she started having a panic attack because she'd never experienced this before, and it was very strange to her. So I don't want to basically shit on her for that, but I also was just like, you cannot literally fucking connect to the fact that we're dealing with a pandemic, and your only thought seems to be of going that I can't have physical contact, that I must have
with strangers.
With strangers.
Specifically with strangers. I can't touch the people's babies. I can't hug people I see and I meet. And it was really this very interesting thing where, and I haven't talked about it for a little while, but there's been this observation of people who have gotten most of their social connections and support from strangers in their day-to-day, quote, friendly interactions or casual interactions that don't realize that they're doing it. And when it's suddenly removed, there's this massive vacuum of I feel lonely and disconnected, as though something that belongs to me has been taken from me. And you touching a stranger's baby or their hair or their belly or their clothes or whatever that is, because of the experience that I know from other women that I've known that have gotten pregnant, is the thing of strangers going, oh, you're pregnant, when they can see it, and they just come up and touch your belly.
And then they go, can I touch you? And you're like, dude.
Or they're already touching you, and they go, how far along, with their hand on the belly, kind of thing. And I've seen it a couple of times, and it's real uncomfortable. But what I've seen is that there are some people that really don't realize how invasive it is to touch other people. And it can happen with, an individual who has a different kind of hair as well. And people going, oh, you have natural hair? You have, ethnic hair? I'm just going to touch it because I feel entitled to it. Or there was one young woman that talked about how she had these decorative little zippers on the shoulders of her shirt, right? And they were just decorative. They literally didn't do anything but zip one way and zip the other. And she filed harassment in her office because men would come up to her and just zip one of the zippers or unzip it. And she's like, this is my body, my clothing. And her boss was like, well, yeah, but I mean, it's not doing anything. She's like, they shouldn't have permission to touch me. Just because. And it's like, there are a lot of people that, especially that friendly, white, motherly, grandmotherly type, who feel like it's just okay to be entitled to be touched by you or touch you.
Yes.
And I, being someone who gets overstimulated very easy and who is also very aware of contact, have never been very open to that, even as I've tried my damnedest not to offend anyone.
Yeah.
Anyway, so hug her instead. She's going to bend down to our level. I lower my hand and put it in my lap, suddenly feeling embarrassed. Oh, sorry about that. I now assume it's offensive to not have understood it was a hugger without you, without knowing you at all. Also, I want to say that I don't condemn or blame those people who get a lot of their contact from casual social interactions. I understand they're crossing boundaries and I don't agree with it. I feel like most of them don't know any other way, or you don't even understand what they're doing.
I was going to say, it sounds like a lot.
It's a systemic issue of lonely people who are disconnected and don't have consistent social rules.
It's a lack of also self-awareness. Like, I've seen it a lot because I've also worked in retail, where you're really just like, there are people who just show up day after day after day, and you are their entertainment. You are their social experience, whether that's by talking to you, whether that's by getting close to you, whether that's by touching you. Like, that happens a lot. And a lot. Like, whoa.
While I've never worked in retail, there's definitely been an experience of me seeing retail people get their space shoved into real aggressively around this pandemic experience. And I mentioned one at one point where it was like an individual was talking to the person behind the barrier who was their clerk, and then just kept trying to get closer and trying to get closer. Finally, they get up and walk around the barrier after they're checked out so they can stand within a foot of this poor woman who cannot get out of her cubicle to finish telling her the story that he felt he was entitled to tell her.
Yes.
And because of, you're supposed to have access to customer service clerks, just that level of I can't connect to why this isn't allowed, or even that I'm doing it. That thing of, ooh, can I touch it? And your hand's already on it, and someone says, you're touching it. And a lot of people don't even notice they're doing it.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry about that.
No, that's not a problem at all.
Oh, good.
So, young man.
Young man,
You're a man and you're young, I said, young man.
I think this is going to happen every time. In our entire career as Let's Players, every time someone says young man, we're going to be like, young man.
Like, we cannot put it down, and I'm fine with that.
It's going to happen forever.
It'll be great.
Shonen.
I said shonen.
We were so disappointed when we heard the Japanese version of YMCA and it didn't say shonen, it said young man.
I know.
The rest of it was in Japanese, but that part was young man because it was the chorus.
And you were like, no!
Or not in the chorus, but it was one of the iconic lines kind of thing. And I was just like, so disappointed. It was young man, not shonen.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You're probably wondering why Rena asked you to come here.
And why you're yelling while she's asleep. And why I'm here while she's asleep.
Don't worry, she's deaf when she's asleep.
I'm wondering a lot of things, Ms. Irma. Yes, you are correct. She heads over to the table and grabs a plate of muffins.
What the fuck?
So I'm a hugger, but I'm not going to hug you. Is actually fascinating because I've never seen that in a person before. I have never heard someone announce to me, I am a hugger,
and then not hug you.
And then not try to hug you. Like, that's actually wild for me.
I also am entertained that the immediate perceptiveness of Mr. Because the stereotype, I think, here really is going, they're a hugger, now we got muffins, now you're a Ms., and I'm this wonderful, friendly, loud, boisterous type, potentially. You're a grandma. Like, this is the grandma stereotype.
You can't say mom because one of your love interests is mom age. Because, Luisa's mom age, and you can't say mom isn't hot. But you can't have this mom be hot because she's not dateable. Even though I say, while he looked exhausted, Mr. Fox wasn't a bad-looking dude. If you styled him a little bit different, he could have stood with those dragon princes, I tell you.
Yeah, he'd been fine.
He'd have been fine. In the same way that I also pointed out that Grandpa looked like, Yakuza, 30 years past his prime. He also could have just stood up and held his, his own. He could have done it.
There's also plenty of those characters that looked fine. But then again, as we've pointed out, when they actually have characters, they seem incapable of not being attractive.
It's impossible to have an unattractive person unless they are a silhouette. It's fine. Anyway, she heads over to the table and grabs a plate of muffins.
Such a grandma thing. I know you still haven't eaten breakfast yet, so dig in!
Mickey, there's plenty of food where you're going. Flashback to this thing 2 minutes ago. Food where you're going.
Goes into Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. Becomes the food. Wait, what?
Right. So, dig in! Shoves an entire tray of muffins into your lap while you're in a wheelchair.
Hey!
Whoa.
It's like the time where you went, I eat cookies. I remember with the role play. So we have this role play that we're running with some people, and my character is playing a complete dunce of a himbo. Like, that is what he has decided he's going to pretend.
That's his espionage. That's his role for deception, kind of.
That is what he has been doing, and he has managed to convince basically the poor staff, the servants in this place that he's staying in, to give him 5 of every cookie that they have for somebody they don't know that's there, but he has basically fooled them into doing this, and it's pretty bad.
Because there was this level of, I'm the concierge of the establishment, the maitre d'. I can whatever you need, I can get it. And he's just like,
cookies.
I'd like a cookie.
And
there's a what kind of cookie? And this back and forth where it's finally like he seems to be changing his mind without realizing he's changing his mind every single time. So finally, the sort of exasperated and overwhelmed, head of the house servants is just like, I'll take care of it. Anything to end this conversation. Later comes back with a plate of like 40 cookies, 5 of each kind that they could come up with during that particular time. Just like, here you are, sir, exactly what you ordered.
And he's like, great! Perfect! I'm like, it was just really damn funny.
Very, very funny. Yes,
this really took
he was suddenly saddled with a lot of very fancy cookies and nothing else.
And it was beautiful, and I loved it. Anyway.
So this is me DMing games. That's how it works. And my friend being fabulous, and it's funny. And the other person in the room was just dying laughing while this whole scene went on, going, I will not break the facade. It's fine. Your charade is beautiful. If I don't crack a rib, trying not to laugh.
It was really good. Okay.
All right.
So dig in.
How do you know I haven't eaten breakfast? I demanded it. from Mickey that she would drag you out of bed unfed and prepared to consume.
Unclothed! I mean, with clothes. With a gown, at least.
I mean, I have this shoestring tied around my neck still to hold the front of the bib gown on. So if I don't move too much, it doesn't show my legs that much.
So I'm going to stand over here with my butt facing the door and hope to God nobody opens the door.
Except I'm just sitting in a wheelchair.
Oh, right.
Carefully tucking the paper in beside me on a regular basis so, the sides of my pecs and my ass don't show. But only the sides, because I'm sitting,
I can't be flashing no TV. Okay.
No tasteful side boob.
No. All right.
Muffins. Don't mind if I do, ma'am. Tasteful side boob. I take a muffin from the entire plate in my lap, and I just shove it slowly into my face.
It absorbs bit by bit.
Mostly
through my teeth and my lips.
I open my mouth really wide and I just start pushing. I think that's how you eat.
I am aware of eating, but you know what? We're going to have to eat it in the next one. So thank you very much, guys, and for joining us. If you like what we do, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and also please feel free to share our videos if you're having a good time with us. Please also feel free to go check out our co-founder Patreon. We got some links in the description down below. And I have been Scandal.
And tasteful side boob. I have been Lies. And it was great playing with you. Bye!